A little black girl told the judge, "I can read your mind." He laughed until she exposed his darkest secret. What did she know? And why did he try to bury it? Stay to the end. You won't forget this. The air inside courtroom 4 of Fairmore County Courthouse was heavy and still, like something sacred, or condemned, had been sealed in with the morning light. The walls were tall, windowless, lined with dark mahogany panels. A single row of overhead fluorescents buzzed faintly as lawyers shuffled papers and clerks whispered behind computer screens. At the defense table sat Mavis Dawson, hunched in her seat, her janitor's uniform faded, her hands trembling around a folder too worn to hold shape. Her eyes stayed glued to the tile floor, while her attorney, Tara Henderson, adjusted her glasses and leaned in with a firm whisper. "Stay calm. I'll do the talking." Across the aisle, the representative for Western Heights property sat upright in a tailored gray suit, hair slicked into precision, eyes gleaming with quiet arrogance. He tapped a Mont Blanc pen rhythmically against his pad, exuding the confidence of a man who already knew the outcome. The rear door creaked open. All heads turned as an 8-year-old girl stepped in. Zariah Dawson, small frame, simple floral dress, two tight braids, a tattered notebook clutched to her chest. She walked silently toward the front, never breaking her gaze from the empty bench where the judge had yet to appear. A low murmur rose. "That's her," someone whispered. "The Dawson girl, the one who said she hears things." Outside the courthouse, a crowd pressed behind barricades. Signs bobbed above heads. "Stop unfair evictions. Fairmore isn't yours to sell." One elderly man, wrapped in a brown scarf, leaned toward a reporter and muttered, "No one ever beats Holloway. Not ever." Inside, a side door opened. Judge Brent Holloway entered in a tailored black robe that hugged his tall, broad-shouldered frame like armor. His silver hair was combed neatly back. His Rolex gleamed with every step. He didn't acknowledge the room. He inspected it, as if taking inventory. His eyes passed over the defense table like one would glance at dust. Zariah never blinked. Tara stood and began presenting. Mavis Dawson had lived in her apartment for 22 years, paid rent on time, funded roof repairs out of her own pocket, and even replaced pipes during a harsh winter. The property owner had ignored every repair request for years, until a company buyout raised the rent by 80%. Mavis slowly pulled out faded receipts taped together with care, handwritten invoices, Polaroids of moldy walls, a printed email chain ignored for months. Her fingers trembled. Meanwhile, Zariah sat motionless. Her breathing slowed. The walls began to hum. Her vision blurred at the edges. A whisper slithered into her ear, crawling through her mind like smoke in a sealed room. "Don't touch me. No, please. He'll find me. He said he'd make me disappear." Her heartbeat raced, ears ringing. Images flickered behind her eyes. Moonlight filtering through trees. A woman screaming. A struggle. Leather gloves. Hands digging furiously in the dirt. A silver scarf soaked in blood. Zariah clenched her notebook tightly. The knowing had returned. A flash from the past cut through. Second grade. She had seen a boy slip a teacher's wallet into his backpack. She told. No one believed her. Labeled a liar. Isolated for weeks. Now the voice was back. Desperate. Determined. "He said no one would find me. He was right. But I'm still here." Tara continued her argument, presenting clauses in the lease agreement. Mavis sat frozen, eyes darting between the judge and her granddaughter. Zariah rose suddenly. The room shifted. Whispers stopped. Paper rustling fell silent. Judge Holloway looked up slowly, one brow arched. Zariah's voice rang clear, steady, quiet, but loud enough to slice through the air like a bell. "I can read your mind." A courtroom clerk dropped his pen. A gasp rippled along the back row. Tara turned sharply but said nothing. Holloway's face remained unmoved, but a flicker passed through his eyes. Recognition, or maybe fear. He leaned back in his chair, voice silk wrapped in steel. "Then tell us, little witch. What am I thinking?" Zariah stepped forward once. Her small fingers gripped the notebook tighter, her eyes locked into his. She spoke slowly. "You're thinking no one ever found her under the sycamore tree, but her voice won't stay buried." The words rang like a chime across glass. Holloway froze. His right hand, still on the bench, squeezed the gavel until his knuckles turned white. The confident calm that usually cloaked his every breath slipped, just for a moment. His pupils narrowed. His jaw clenched. A security guard took a cautious step forward. Mavis rushed up, placing herself between Zariah and the bench. She's just a child, Your Honor. She's overwhelmed. Tara followed quickly, raising her hand. We request a brief recess under Clause 3.3, minor psychological distress. Judge Holloway said nothing. He stared at Zariah like he was seeing something he didn't believe existed. Zariah didn't flinch. She let the silence answer. As they turned to leave, the courtroom remained stunned, motionless. Holloway finally turned his head slightly, voice low, almost to himself. How does she know? Mavis slammed the front door hard enough to rattle the dishes in the cabinets. You had no right to do that, Zariah, she shouted, wheeling around. Her eyes were wild, panicked. Do you know what you just did? You embarrassed yourself. You embarrassed me, and you made things worse for us. Zariah didn't answer. She climbed onto the wooden dining chair, tearing off a small corner of her sandwich, her fingers trembling slightly. She stared ahead, her voice barely above a breath. She's still screaming. She wants someone to hear. Mavis froze. Her hands clenched, loosened, then clenched again. Without another word, she turned, climbed the stairs, and locked her bedroom door behind her. Zariah chewed in silence, the ticking of the kitchen clock the only sound left in the house. That night, sleep did not come easy. Zariah thrashed under the sheets, caught between dream and memory. She was underground, soil pressing against her skin, roots curling around her wrists. A woman's hand clawed at the dirt, fingernails cracked and bleeding. Blood dripped from a wound above her eye, rolling down to a silver ring with a blue stone. And then a voice, shaky and soaked in betrayal. You weren't supposed to be pregnant. You weren't supposed to speak. Zariah gasped awake, soaked in sweat. She scrambled for her notebook, flipped it open with trembling hands and wrote, Leather gloves, silver scarf, blue stone, hollow eyes, Riverside. Elsewhere in Fairmore, Detective Jalen Bishop sat in his office, a mug of lukewarm coffee at his elbow. He had been assigned to follow up on courtroom disruption. He had rolled his eyes until he saw the name attached to the report. Zariah Dawson. He opened an archive file. Marla Grayson, last seen April 3rd, 2005. Journalist, missing. Case closed after 48 hours, only 2 pages long. No forensics, no witness statements, no scene documentation. Filed by Detective Thomas Reynolds. Bishop blinked. Reynolds, brother-in-law of Judge Brent Holloway. Interesting. Meanwhile, Tara Henderson's office phone rang off the hook. Reporters wanted statements. Is it true the girl can read minds? What did the judge say off record? One news site posted a blurry photo of Zariah with a headline, Witch in the Courtroom? The story spread like wildfire. At school, the damage was worse. Zariah entered her classroom the next day to mocking whispers. Do you see dead people? One boy hissed, and a group snickered. Another girl whispered, Stay away from her, or she'll curse you. When the bell rang for recess, Zariah sat alone, untouched lunch in front of her. She stared at nothing, unmoving. When Mavis arrived early to pick her up, the teacher said, She didn't speak all day. Not even once. And that evening, Mavis climbed up to the attic and pulled out a locked cedar box. Inside were yellowed letters, pressed violets, and a note from her mother, written in shaky cursive. It skipped me, but it never skips two. Mavis sat beside Zariah that night, unable to look her in the eyes. Your great-grandmother used to call it the knowing. She said it came when the world grew too cruel for secrets to stay buried. I never had it, but maybe you do. She didn't say more. Later, as Zariah washed the dishes, a plate slipped from her hands and shattered. She stood motionless, staring at the window as if seeing through it. Her voice was distant, detached. He smells the scarf when he drinks. It reminds him of her last breath. Tara had been digging in parallel. She forwarded confidential documents to investigative journalist Malia Sloan, specifically a property list under Skyline Acquisitions, a shell company tied to Holloway's inner circle. Malia responded instantly. Why is a sitting judge hiding a lakefront cabin under a proxy account? Jalen continued pulling threads. He uncovered a formal request from Marla Grayson dated March 2005, asking for zoning records in a predominantly black neighborhood. The request was marked lost in processing. A park ranger contacted Jalen that same night. I think you should know, our patrol dog's been acting strange. 3 nights in a row it barked its head off near the old sycamore by the river. Never seen him like that. The next morning, Zariah sat at the kitchen table sketching. Her pencil moved slowly, almost deliberately, When Mavis passed behind her, she saw the drawing. A crooked tree, thick roots spreading wide, and a faint circle underneath with scribbled words. She's underneath. Then came the knock. Mavis expected a delivery. She opened the door and froze. Sprayed in fresh, dripping red paint across the wooden panels was a message. Speakers die. She covered her mouth. Her knees buckled slightly. Zariah appeared silently at her side. Her small fingers reached out and touched the words. The paint was still wet. Her expression didn't change. He knows I saw, she whispered. Outside, an SUV idled across the street. Tinted windows. No plates. It rolled slowly down the road as Mavis pulled Zariah back inside and slammed the door. By the next morning, the photo of Zariah pointing at the painted words, "Speakers die," had made its way to the front page of the Fairmore Gazette. Underneath the image, a headline in bold red screamed, "Which child escalates attack on judge?" The article painted her as mentally unstable, raised questions about Mavis's custody, and labeled Tara as a publicity-hungry lawyer, pushing a dangerous narrative. But by afternoon, the narrative was no longer theirs to control. Someone had clipped a short video from the courtroom, a shaky phone recording of Zariah's quiet declaration, "You're thinking no one ever found her under the sycamore tree." It was reposted with the caption, "Little black girl reads the judge's mind." Within hours, it was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, even CNN. Hashtags exploded. The knowing, Zariah speaks, justice under the tree. Tara, watching it unfold from her office, knew they had one shot before the town, or worse, the state, moved to silence them. She filed an emergency motion with the city council to allow Zariah to speak at the upcoming public hearing on Fairmore's land redevelopment. At first, it was rejected, but the internet had its own agenda. Hundreds of calls and emails flooded the mayor's office. Protesters camped outside City Hall with signs reading, "Let her speak and listen to the child." Under pressure, the mayor caved. The hearing would proceed, with Zariah Dawson on the list of speakers. The hearing took place in Fairmore's town hall, a building of steel and glass meant to symbolize progress. By the time Zariah arrived, the seats were packed. Elected officials in front, journalists along the sides, and community members filling every inch of standing room. On one side of the aisle, a group held banners reading "Fairmore for Progress." On the other, rows of silent men and women from East Fairmore sat shoulder to shoulder, holding printed photos of Marla Grayson. Zariah sat in the front row, silent, knees barely touching the floor. When her name was called, a ripple moved through the room. Some chuckled, others clapped hesitantly. She stood, walked slowly to the podium, and placed her small notebook on the stand. The cameras zoomed in. The room inhaled. She began. She begged him not to. She was 3 months pregnant. She told him she would go away, but he laughed, and then he struck her. Every syllable was glass against stone. Zariah's voice was calm but carried a weight older than her years. She described the scarf, silver, soft, twisted around Marla's throat, the gurgled breath, the torn fingernails, the dirt caked under her dying hands. From the middle row, a woman covered her mouth and wept. "Marla interviewed me about evictions. She said she was close to something." The room remained frozen until a voice pierced the stillness from the rear. "This is a circus." All eyes turned as Judge Brent Holloway entered through a side door, flanked by 2 local officers. He wore no robe, only a charcoal suit and dark glasses. His voice boomed. "This hearing is being hijacked. That child is being exploited for political theater." Tara rose from her seat without hesitation. "If this is a circus, Your Honor," she said, voice crisp and icy, "then truth is the lion." And she just roared. Gasps, camera shutters. Holloway said nothing more but stood stiff, jaw clenched, refusing to sit. Jalen Bishop arrived midway through the hearing and slipped a thick manila folder into Tara's hand. Inside were spreadsheets, 112 civil cases Holloway had presided over in the last decade. 89% of his rulings had gone against black plaintiffs or tenants, a pattern too precise to be coincidence. Simultaneously, Malia Sloan called Tara from her car. Her voice was tight, breathless. "Skyline Acquisitions is real, and shady as hell. Guess who owns the Pineside cabin on record? Holloway's nephew. It's registered as a recreation asset for judicial retreats." Zariah was right. When Tara passed the phone to Zariah, the girl took it without hesitation. "There are tape," she said simply. "Under the floorboard, left side of the bed. The plank creaks." Back in his office, Holloway erupted. Whiskey glass shattered against the wall. "Get rid of the damn place," he barked into the phone. "Burn the tapes, burn the house, I don't care. If that cabin surfaces, I'm finished." That evening, Jalen returned home to find a brown envelope sticking out of his mailbox. No return address. Inside, a USB drive. He plugged it into his secure laptop and hit play. A woman's voice, clear, terrified, spoke, "If anything happens to me, start with locker 12. Brent Holloway." He laughed when I cried. He said no one would believe a girl like me. The recording ended with heavy breathing, then more softly. "If the baby lives, he's finished." Jalen called the FBI. No hesitation, no red tape. He forwarded the file and requested full protection status for all named parties. As the hearing adjourned, Zariah walked past Holloway. She didn't look up, but her voice was sharp, almost tender. "You left her there, but she never left you." In a newly recovered audio clip, Holloway's voice slurred through bar noise. "If she doesn't shut up, I'll bury her like I did Marla." By sunrise, the retaliation had begun. The first blow came in the form of an email to Fairmore Elementary. It bore no name, just a subject line: "Urgent disruption notice." Within hours, Mavis received a call from the principal. Zariah had been suspended indefinitely. The official reason? Severe disruption of campus safety and psychological environment. When Mavis arrived to collect her, she found Zariah sitting alone in the nurse's office. Her backpack rested on her lap, unopened. She didn't cry. She didn't blink. As they walked out, a boy spat toward the hallway wall and muttered, "Witch." That same morning, Mavis stopped by the local hospital for her usual cleaning shift, but the supervisor at the staff entrance met her with a polite smile and said, "We've been asked to discontinue your services. It's not personal, just optics. You understand." He didn't wait for a reply. When she got home, another blow was waiting in Tara's inbox. An anonymous message attached with a blurred image of a young girl showering. The caption read, "Withdraw now, or your niece's photo hits every dark site on the internet." The image was fake, clearly doctored, but the threat wasn't. By noon, Malia Sloan was suspended from her newsroom. "Pending internal review," her editor had said curtly, handing her a sealed packet demanding she relinquish all documents relating to Judge Holloway. "And please, no further contact with your source. We're not going down with this." Within hours, a smear campaign exploded across social media. Posts under fake accounts claimed Zariah had been institutionalized at age 6. Others accused Tara of exploiting a mentally ill child for a political agenda. A few comments openly celebrated the idea of silencing the little freak before she curses the town. Then came the knock at Mavis's door. 2 agents from Child Protective Services stood grimly on the porch, clipboards in hand. One of them, a tall woman with tired eyes, said, "We received a report of psychological manipulation and delusional behavior. We're here to assess the child's safety." Mavis refused entry. They returned with 2 police officers. As Tara arrived mid-assessment, she found Zariah sitting calmly at the kitchen table sketching. Her fingers moved slowly over the page. When Tara looked, her stomach turned cold. The drawing was of the sycamore tree, its roots sprawling, reaching, and below them, arms clawing upward. In the center, a notebook was buried. Above it, a face in agony. Jalen tried to help. He logged into his department portal to pull surveillance footage, only to find his access revoked. The police chief summoned him to his office and said, with clipped tone, "You're stepping into places no one wants you. Take a vacation, Bishop." Now. The pressure mounted from all directions. Zariah's house lost power without warning. Then water. A neighbor, once friendly, crossed the street to tell Mavis quietly, "The word is, folks should keep their distance. There's too much noise around your girl." That night, Mavis sat on the edge of Zariah's bed, suitcase half-packed. "We'll go to your aunt's in Savannah," she said. "Just for a little while." Her voice cracked. "It's not giving up. It's protecting you." Zariah looked up, her expression solemn. "She's not done," she whispered. "There's more." Mavis almost asked, "Who?" But she knew. Zariah stepped off the bed and walked to the bathroom mirror. She exhaled, fogging it, and then with her index finger slowly traced backward letters. He buried the truth, but she marked the map. Tara arrived a few minutes later, face pale, holding a stack of notes. "They're planning something," she said. "I've seen enough obstruction to know when the machine is preparing to crush someone. They're going to destroy the cabin, erase the trail, and maybe even make you both vanish. Zariah stood between them and said firmly, "Then we dig first." That night in the cramped kitchen, Tara laid out a crude map. Jalen joined via encrypted call. "We can't go loud. If we alert the FBI now, we risk the evidence vanishing before they get approval to act." They planned fast. No phones, no GPS, no traceable rentals. They would pose as running errands, then detour in an old borrowed truck straight to the riverside. Before they left, Mavis opened the mailbox one last time. Inside was a plain envelope, no stamp, no return address. She opened it to find a single slip of paper. Letters cut from newspaper headlines were glued into 4 chilling words: dig and disappear. She turned the paper around to show Tara. Zariah didn't flinch. She stepped forward, took the note from her grandmother's hand, folded it once, and slid it into her coat pocket. Then she looked up at Tara, voice calm, quiet, deadly certain. "They're not just afraid of the truth," she said. "They're afraid I can prove it." The rain had just passed, leaving the sky a dull, bruised gray. The air smelled of wet soil and secrets. The old sycamore tree leaned slightly over the embankment, its twisted branches reaching like crooked arms toward the water. Zariah had drawn this place again and again, each sketch clearer than the last. This was where the knowing led them. Tara parked the borrowed truck half a mile away. No phones, no electronics, no GPS. Just silence and breath. She and Jalen walked ahead with flashlights and a small camera clipped to Jalen's jacket. Mavis held Zariah's hand, though it felt more like Zariah was the one doing the leading. Jalen had brought a cadaver dog, Sable, a black and tan German shepherd with war-hardened instincts. The moment Sable stepped into the clearing, she froze. Then she started to growl, low and focused, before digging at the roots of the sycamore with desperate fury. Zariah stood 5 feet away. She didn't move. Her eyes were closed, her lips barely moving. "She's still cold," she whispered, "but she's closer to light now." Jalen kneeled and unpacked the biosensor. The screen pinged sharply. Organic decay detected. Estimated depth, 90 to 110 centimeters. He looked up. "We dig." It took nearly an hour. The ground was thick, tangled with roots, the earth soggy from the rain. Mavis knelt beside them, her hands trembling as she passed out gloves. Tara held the flashlight steady as Jalen's shovel finally hit something hard. Wood, soft and crumbling with rot. He cleared the soil, revealing a small cedar box, its edges warped from time. He paused. No one said a word. Jalen opened the lid. Inside, wrapped in a stained silver scarf, was a blood-crusted ring with a cracked blue stone. Next to it lay a photo, faded and yellowed. It showed a smiling Marla Grayson, wearing the same scarf, next to a younger Brent Holloway at a campaign celebration. Mavis gasped. She was real, she was someone, and they erased her. Zariah stepped forward, looked into the box, then whispered, "She marked it with her last tears, so someone would find her." Jalen turned on the camera, slowly recording every angle. Then he called the FBI field office and relayed the coordinates. "Tell them it's time," he said. "Send everything you've got." 2 hours, that's all they needed. While they waited, Malia Sloan wrote the story from her car, hands shaking as she typed, "Justice buried under the tree." She posted it with hashtags, number Justice for Marla, number Zariah Speaks. It went viral within 40 minutes. Senator aides shared it. Activists blasted it across social platforms. Celebrities posted reaction videos, calling Zariah the voice of the silenced. By sunrise, every major news outlet had picked it up. Reporters swarmed Fairmore. Protesters pitched tents outside the courthouse with candles and signs. "Bury the judge, not the truth." Someone painted a mural of Marla on the courthouse wall, half her face, the other half a sycamore. Tara, sitting with CNN that morning, said, "They ignored her. The court, the police, the town, but a child heard her anyway." Across the country, donations poured into the Legal Defense Fund. Emails from survivors arrived by the dozens, each with their own story of being silenced. Zariah read some aloud that night, her voice quiet but steady. Meanwhile, Brent Holloway vanished. The U.S. Marshals issued a BOLO. It didn't take long. At Chicago O'Hare, a TikTok user posted a blurry video of a furious man yelling at the Delta check-in counter. "I have a right to leave this godforsaken country," he screamed, holding a passport that was later revealed to be forged. Comments poured in. Is that the Fairmore judge? It went viral in hours. Holloway was detained. When the camera caught his face, he shouted at the lens, "I protected this town. I kept it clean." The internet turned it into a meme. Clean from what? One tweet replied. People who told the truth. That same day, the FBI raided the Pineside Lake cabin. They ripped up the floorboards where Zariah had said. Beneath the leftmost plank was a reinforced safe. Inside, dozens of files labeled with case numbers, photos of plaintiffs, typed notes, checks from anonymous donors, and most damning, a hard drive filled with security footage. One clip showed Holloway meeting with a city official in a bar. Another showed him shredding documents late at night in his office. The final folder was labeled MG. Inside, a recording, Marla's voice. "You'll kill me too?" she asked. A pause, then Holloway's cold reply. "Only if you scream louder than the others." Jalen rode in the back seat with Zariah on the drive home. The wind outside was soft, the sky almost forgiving. "You just changed the course of a town," he said, voice low. Zariah looked out the window, eyes half-lidded. "She changed it," she replied. "I just heard her." She fell asleep not long after, her head tilted gently against the seatbelt, her hands curled around her notebook. In her dream, she saw a concrete tunnel beneath the courthouse, rows of boxes, locked doors. Then came Marla's voice again, this time whispering not in fear, but in warning. Under the Justice Hall, they locked more than just papers. The trial of State of Georgia versus Brent Holloway began beneath the weight of a nation's gaze. The courtroom was packed, every seat claimed before dawn. News vans lined the streets, helicopters hovered above. The courthouse lawn, once empty, had become a sea of tents and candles. Photos of Marla Grayson pinned to poster boards beside handwritten signs. "Truth has roots, and let her speak," she did. Inside, Judge Regina Monroe took her seat at the bench. The first black woman to ever preside over a federal tribunal in Georgia, she wore her robe like armor and carried the calm of a woman who had fought her way through fire to earn it. Her voice, when she began, was steady. "We are here today," she said, "because the dead don't stay buried, especially when justice still breathes." The jury was diverse, 12 citizens from 6 counties, chosen meticulously to avoid the infection of local politics. They listened as Tara Henderson rose, calm and composed, beginning her opening statements not with accusation, but with a timeline. It began with Mavis Dawson's rent increase. It traced through Zariah's testimony, her visions, her drawings, the sycamore tree. Photos of the unearthed box appeared on the courtroom screen. Then the scarf, the cracked ring, the picture of Holloway and Marla, the safe under the floorboards at the lake house, the video files, the voices. Forensic experts confirmed what the evidence had whispered. The DNA on the scarf belonged to Marla Grayson. Holloway's skin cells were under her fingernails. The soil from the tree contained trace biological material matching Marla's last recorded medical exam. The leather fibers found in the burial site matched a glove set from Holloway's former home office, disposed of in 2006. When Holloway took the stand to defend himself, his voice was brittle. He called Zariah a pawn of radical media. He claimed the files were fabricated in a smear campaign. He blamed the court, the press, and even Marla for threatening his life's work. Then Tara played a single clip. Marla's voice filled the courtroom. "If you're hearing this, I'm gone. But I swear on my name, he said we weren't meant to live in this system." Silence. And then Zariah was called to the stand. The entire room turned. She walked slowly, chin lifted, hair braided neatly. Her shoes tapped softly across the floor. As she climbed onto the witness box, she didn't hesitate. She didn't need notes. She didn't blink. "She was never silent," Zariah said. "The world just got too loud to hear her." The court stenographer dropped her pen. Judge Monroe took a breath, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. "Thank you, child." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They returned with a single sheet of paper. The verdict, guilty on all counts. Brent Holloway was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, plus 47 additional years for conspiracy, obstruction, civil rights violations, and evidence tampering. As he was led away, he didn't speak. He didn't look at anyone. The cuffs around his wrists were too tight to hide the tremor in his hands. A week later, the Fairmore courthouse held a ceremony beneath a clear sky. The building had been renamed the Marla Grayson Justice Center. Mavis, dressed in a pale blue blouse, stood on the courthouse steps beside Tara and Jalen as the new plaque was unveiled. Inside, Zariah stood alone in a side hall, looking up at a mural freshly painted on the wall. Marla Grayson, standing beneath the sycamore, one hand raised, not begging, but pointing forward. A new foundation was announced, the Zariah Foundation for Empowered Youth, dedicated to protecting children who speak truth others want buried. The room applauded. Mavis wept softly as Tara handed her the new rental contract, permanent tenancy, protected against unlawful eviction. The clause was signed by the city council and sealed by the state. As they left the building, neighbors approached Mavis, hugging her, shaking her hand. Someone shouted, "Fairmore owes you." Another whispered, "She changed everything." And that night in her bedroom, Zariah opened her notebook for the last time. She didn't draw blood, or roots, or death. She drew the sycamore tree again, but this time its branches stretched wide under a full moon, and beneath it stood a woman with a soft smile. No fear, no sorrow, just peace. A voice whispered gently in her mind, "Thank you for hearing me." And Zariah, eyes half-lidded, whispered back, "The knowing came, because silence could no longer hold the truth." It started with a little black girl saying, "I can read your mind." It ended with a judge exposed, and his darkest secret revealed to the world. This isn't just a story about justice. It's about what happens when someone small, unheard, dares to speak the truth. Which moment struck you the hardest? What would you have done if you were in that room? We'd love to hear your thoughts. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next story that demands to be heard. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.